the dimensions that we've...
Are we on camera yet? Hi guys! Come and sit down, Cora.
This won't be shown to the students.
Yes, it will. We're back again. This is part 2 of your video.
After having a discussion off camera, which was quite interesting, we decided to record the part 2 just for your interest, because we will start thinking about different elements that you could include in your presentations and in your reports.
Yeah. I guess what we're thinking is that there's a whole load of studies out there about how Brazil is different to China and how, you know, people have problems and challenges and so on, and that is all great stuff for you guys to understand and to create a better understanding of the things that go wrong. But none of that is going to give you a framework for thinking about a process which any company anywhere in the world can use in order to consider these issues of culture prior to making whatever investment they are considering. And so we've been having a little discussion amongst ourselves here, and we decided to share it with you. I guess the first thought is that the whole issue is too big to just go, there's one questionnaire, there's one methodology which is going to basically address everything. And that there are fundamental differences that are encountered by companies in different sectors, and those differences are in part because of the nature of the sector itself and the processes that those businesses have, and also because of the types of countries that they operate in. So, for example, a mining company may do a huge amount of work in Africa and deal with all sorts of specific issues, and that, in a sense, makes for the problems that they face. And so you could look at it from an industry sector point of view, and you could say, let's look at retail, let's look at mining and primary materials extraction, oil and gas, etc., or fast-moving consumer goods. That's one way of sort of trying to come up with a methodology which is for one industry. That's one way of looking at it. And then we were talking about a sort of more horizontal business function approach to saying, well, let's think about management and leadership. Let's think about sales and marketing, HR, performance and pay, manufacturing and processes, supply chain management, and take this horizontal structure and then maybe come up with approaches which are specific to business functions.
Yes.
And then consider the vertical dimension, the industry vertical dimension, as a further refinement.
But I think there's more commonality across the functional approach, because every organisation will have HR issues, every organisation will have some of those key functions with those same problems.
But you might want to slice in HR and then think about key differences between certain industry sectors, for example. You were talking about a paper.
The other thing we were discussing was whether you could start thinking in terms of downstream or upstream activities, in the sense that in your upstream activities you're closer kind of to your suppliers. It's more about managing the manufacturing process, your procurement and your logistics, whilst with the downstream, which are closer to the consumer, you probably need to look towards the consumer's culture. So the organization is not only looking internally in terms of managing the cultural issues, but also the country that it's operating into.
Although, of course, if you're upstream at the sort of supply chain management, you've got a whole load of issues around your suppliers and your business partners.
So you end up having the two elements of the value chain of the organization. Whilst the upstream, you look backwards towards who are your suppliers and what kind of relationships you build with them, and then with the downstream, you look who are your customers in that particular location and how you're going to treat them, and in between that, you also have the element of within the organizational cultural issue. So
another way of thinking about this, of course, also is around value added and characterizing businesses or industry sectors by different levels of value addition. Because obviously, well, not obviously, but I mean, perhaps it is the case that if you are, for example, in pharmaceutical research and development, which is a high level of intellectual value added, where the people who may be cooperating on a global basis are of a very high standard of education. Generally, maybe those issues are very different to, for example, if you are in primary agriculture and you are managing plantations of whatever it is across the world. So there are some really fundamental differences in what companies do according to the value addition or the value added, the value chain of the business itself. So in any case, some food for thought there, guys, as to how you could crack into this project. It's a really interesting one, so good luck. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right, let's go home.
I'll send you what I'm writing.
Yeah.
Don't quote it because it's still
Work in progress.
Work in progress.
How do you turn this thing off?